Tonight is Rachel Cook, a journalist who's passionate about good food.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello.
Good to see you. How was your pigeon?
It was delicious.
Yes?
Thank you.
It was a wood pigeon, yeah?
Yes,
Not a pigeon from
yes,
Trafalgar Square.
yeah. And so you must care about meat. I mean, where your meat comes from.
I've always cared, sort of, not just for my own personal benefit, but obviously
Yeah.
for the customer benefit,
Yeah.
the fact that we give them that level of security to make sure that transparency
Yeah.
is there for them to understand.
Yeah.
So you've been looking into supermarket meats for us?
I have. I've been looking at sausages. I've been trying to look beyond the packaging to see what actually goes into the sausage.
In the UK, we spend over £500 million on sausages every year. But do you really know how much meat goes into your average economy banger? And do you know what else goes in there besides?
Does it taste meaty?
It does taste meaty.
Does it?
Yeah, it looks a bit bendy.
I'd say it's about
70%.
70% meat. That is actually an economy sausage from a supermarket, and it contains 32% meat.
I'm appalled that a sausage can have as little as 32% meat. The rest of it is mainly water and breadcrumbs, by the way. But more shocking still is what that 32% can be made up of.
When it says meat on a label for a product such as a sausage, it doesn't actually just mean lean meat. It means other things like fat, connective tissue. And connective tissue is things like skin, rind, gristle, tendon, sinew.
So over half the so-called meat content can be gristle and fat, and it's still allowed to be called meat on the label. It is safe and it is legal, but if I'm going to eat gristle and sinew, I want to know about it. And I think the current labelling system is misleading. Earlier this year, Gordon and his team of food technologists investigated the contents of economy sausages from the big four supermarkets to see how much so-called connective tissue they contained in total. The results are enlightening, if not surprising.
Our research showed that the connective tissue levels varied amongst the supermarkets. Morrison's had 7.5%, Asda 10%, Sainsbury's 22%, and Tesco 24% connective tissue.
So according to tests carried out by Gordon earlier this year, the economy sausage being sold by Britain's biggest supermarket contains the most connective tissue. That's skin, rind, gristle, tendon and sinew to you and me. So how can you spot better quality sausages in the supermarket? Well, there's one very simple trick to remember when buying. If a packet of sausages is labelled simply sausages like these, the legal requirement is that they contain just 32% meat. If, on the other hand, the label says pork sausages, like these, the legal requirement is that they contain 42% meat. To demonstrate what all this means in practical terms, I went to visit top butchers Mohn & Sons, winner of 12 awards at this year's National Sausage Competition.
Show me what you put in one of your sausages.
Okay, this is the meat here. This is for an 80% meat content sausage.
And how many sausages would you be able to make out of that meat?
Approximately 120.
So, Richard, you're going to help me make a sausage that's just on the limit of the regulations. Now, I'm going to make 120 sausages. This is the meat of my sausages, but it doesn't look like meat at all. How much is that? What percentage?
This is a 32% meat content sausage.
It looks disgusting, though. What's all this stuff?
Well, this is connective tissue. You're allowed a quarter in your recipe.
Right.
And this is pork fat, and you're allowed 30%.
We've also got this. Is that going in the sausage too?
Yeah, that's the extra bits. So long as you declare it on your label, then that's fine.
So, going into the barely legal banger is 32% meat, which includes fat and gristle. Then extra fat and gristle, 3 kilos of rusk and some colouring and herbs.
So here it is, the barely legal banger. Technically, it's a sausage.
And under current labelling guidelines, it can be sold as a sausage.
I think the law should be looked into just to clarify what is actually called meat. In my mind, meat is really lean meat and fat. I wouldn't really call gristles and skin or connective tissues meat.
So how did our testers react when they found out exactly what we put in our barely legal banger?
It's repulsive. I mean, you can basically just get away with anything by putting meat down.
You would assume that if it says meat, you would hope it's the finest cuts of the best raised beef or pork.
Now I think I will go vegetarian.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's drastic. So when you're shopping for meat, Always read the label, check the water content, check the percentage of meat included. But remember that with sausages, 55% of the meat can be made up of fat and gristle, and that's in addition to the fat and gristle that you'll find on the label. Secondly, if you're buying sausages, always look out for the ones that are labelled pork sausages rather than the ones that are just vaguely labelled sausages. They're more likely to have more meat in them.
So if you're not keen on connective tissue, you might want to think about which supermarket you buy your sausages from.
That looked extremely grim.
Yeah, quite grim.
What are your sort of main conclusions then after that?
I think there are two things. First thing is that the label may not tell you all there is to know, so read it carefully. And if you want less connective tissue in your economy sausage, then, well, I wouldn't go to Tesco or Sainsbury's.